Well, before we begin, that's loud. All right, I want to thank ASU, Project Humanities, and Desperado Film Festival for showing this wonderful film. So let's give them a round of applause. So I know we were supposed to have the actor here, but I think we're going to have a little bit of a better discussion because you all get to participate. And that's what's so great about this event is there's so many of you here, so we get to hear a bunch of different perspectives. So let's just start with the basic question. Did we like the film? Yes? All right. What did we like about it specifically? And just so we can hear from people and know who's speaking, if you could raise your hand, our wonderful volunteers, Phil and Everett, will come to you with some microphones so we can all hear what you say. So again, I'll ask the question, what did we like about the film?
Being older, I loved all the innuendos.
You like the innuendos?
Because I love my double entendre.
Yes, it's a lot of clever writing, that's for sure. What else did we like about the film?
I like that it dealt with the problems with positive stereotypes versus negative stereotypes, because stereotypes, regardless of positive or negative, are damaging to people. So,
thank you for sharing that. What? Yeah, we gotta applaud that. That's a good point. Absolutely. What else did we like about the film?
I like the way that it deals with a difficult topic, but with a sense of humor, that people kind of engaged and laughing and enjoying themselves.
Thank you for that. And going off of that, so this is the first film ever a teen genre film to have a gay leading protagonist. And Project Humanities all this week was emphasizing humor. So how did they mix the two together in the film?
Usually when you hear about someone coming out, it's more of a sensitive topic. So, and I felt it was easier to listen to and understand when it was involved with humor, because it wasn't as, oh my god, they're gay. It was like, oh, okay, that's cool, you know? We can still work with that. Like, it's associated. I don't know. I'm sorry. Okay.
Thank you. What else? I mean, do we agree that it was funny? Yeah, I thought it was hilarious. And you mentioned the innuendos. What else did they do in the film?
Exposed a lot of fallacies.
Can you explain a little bit more on that?
I know. You won't be telling that. One is the religion.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to speak to what the film spoke because they only spoke to two. But every single religion has the human element. And with that you have the hypocrisy. And that's what they exposed in the two they spoke on.
No, it was really interesting because they brought up some very controversial topics with religion and LGBT issues, but they made it funny. That's a very hard thing to do because humor is subjective, but they did it, I thought they did it pretty effectively. Or did they? Excellent. ...
In the morning, I'm going to go to Sunday school and teach the Mormon teenagers. And I know I'm going to tell them about this movie. But I would appreciate some advice from you guys what I should say to them. Because it's pretty sensitive.
I'm also a Mormon. And what I really loved about it is that it showed that there's some Mormon diversity. We're not all the same.
So can we help her out? Can we give her some advice when she explains this film to her students?
Don't tell your parents.
All right, don't tell your parents. You got that one. What else?
Oh,
Michelle, I think it's really important that when you talk to your students that you frame it in the context of history. And part of the issue is when Proposition 8 passed in California, a large portion of that money came from Utah, came from the Mormon Church. And I think that's why the writer as well as the director had some issues. And I'll tell you what, I was one of the people who screened the film, and that was one of my issues of concern is how much they bashed Mormons. But then again, I thought this is an opportunity to share what happened back in 2008.
Yeah, good point.
Yes, thank you, Dale.
We didn't send money for that.
Yeah, I would think so if you're here. That would be pretty questionable.
No, we don't want that sign on our front lawn.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Any other advice we could give her when she goes tomorrow? Because I feel one of the things I liked about this film too is that it used humor, like we said before, to address controversial issues. So what controversial issues did they address in the film with humor?
One of the things that I related to tremendously was the parent perspective. There was such a problem with communication that was taking place between the teens as they were going through this process of self-discovery, and the parents themselves trying to help them through that process. Yeah, you know, you had the one mom who just really loved her son and it didn't matter what he was like. You had the other parents that knew, but they chose not to discuss it with their son, and their son chose not to discuss it with them until like the very last minute. And I think it is very important that those fears that exist between parents addressing these touchy issues and kids addressing these touchy issues gets broken down and goes away, and that communication barrier opens up. But we also have to ask ourselves, how much of this is just teenagers being teenagers and parents aren't cool, so you don't talk to them? You know, so it's a rough balance.
Absolutely. I mean, I was cringing a little bit when Brent was watching Brokeback Mountain with his mom. I was like, oh, yeah, that one would be a little bit awkward.
They also dealt with issues of race to some extent. I forgot the character's name. Who's the drama? Caprice. So with Caprice, and I think one of my favorite parts of the film is when the Christian character was saying, "I always wanted an SBF," you know, a sassy black friend, and I think she got a taste of that sort of objectification of labels, that they just see you as the labels and not the person.
They also dealt with rape. There was, you know, multiple attempted rapes and sexual coercion, and it was all a joke. And in the end, you know, the characters, the rapists, you know, got away with it. They had a good time. That's really fucked up. Yeah, murder.
Thank you for pointing that one out.
He was willing.
He was willing?
Yes.
No.
He didn't run from it.
He said no, there's no vocal consent. Oh, okay.
Okay. We have some clarification. Okay. Robin thinks that. All right, so we were talking about the stereotypes that happened in this film, and the biggest one was the GBF. What do we think about the GBF concept? Oh, I hear a lot of muttering.
Yeah, it's just a little humiliating, I think. I just, I went back to graduate school when I was in my late 30s, and I had somebody that I realized was doing this to me, and kind of didn't want me dating anybody. I was supposed to be sort of this queer eye for the straight guy, kind of sexless appendage to her that like kind of made her cool and, you know, hip. And I eventually I actually ended the friendship in the end. It just was like,
everything about how she would talk to me was like as if I was not a sexual being and really not a full human being. So
She only identified you by that just one social identity.
yeah, it was more about her being cool and like, wow, look, I'm this kind of person who would have this gay guy as my friend, rather than just, like, you know, he said it in the movie, like, I just want to be a friend. You know, it's not, I'm your gay friend, I'm just like this guy who's friends with you.
Yeah, and even the writer has said, I've done a little research before watching the film and before coming here, and the writer purposely addressed issues with stereotypes. Because remember, he was in Fawcett's room, I believe, and she's like, oh, do you like this outfit? And he's like, I don't know anything about girls' clothes. I don't know what to tell you. So that was just one example of them dispelling the myth of the GBF and what they have to offer. What else do we think about the GBF?
So I'm kind of thinking about the comments on like parenting we're hearing from the person up front, and it made me a little uncomfortable when our main character like came out to his father, and Shauna, I think was her name, and they were like, well, of course we knew the whole time, as if like they could assume his identity, when I felt like the rest of the movie like was trying to tell us like you can't assume that people are these ways. So it's like a little weird. Yeah.
I want to talk about that. Sorry, there's some whispering up front about the follow-up comments that the parents also have regarding, oh yeah, of course you can be bisexual, like the joke of that. And it completely neglects the fact that there's like an evolving identity at play in regard to any of the characters hypothetically, not that they were necessarily written that way. And that like he is allowed to self-discover and self-label and self-claim and take ownership of his own identity, and yet first off, they assumed his identity, like the previous speaker said, and then like we're discouraging him from the potential that he could be anything else. And I thought that was a problem.
Yeah, there might be some exclusionary behaviors and reactions with that, but I'm glad you both pointed that out.
My comment about the GBF was that it's kind of like the play on the fag hag. So I thought it was really clever because we have grown up with this whole like, oh, straight ladies like the gay men because they like to be the fag hag and they get all their like advice about clothing and all that jazz. So I thought it was really funny that like the other side of the spectrum.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I know one of the things that the writer was saying is that the appeal of the GBF for women is that they don't have to compete with them for other men, and they don't have to worry about competing for attention. They don't feel threatened by the man. It's just there for friendship, get fashion advice like you were saying. What else do we think about the GBF?
It's not really about the GBF, but I'm thinking about one thing that I appreciate about the film was that there's a big spectrum of being gay and what gay means. I remember when I came out to my sister, she was really excited because she thought I was going to help her pick out her clothes. And I told her I'm not that kind of gay. Sometimes I still have to tell her that her shoes don't match, but still, I'm not really like that. So I think that it's important to address that to the public, that not everybody is the same. We're just a really big spectrum.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we got
over here. I just would also like to comment too that I liked how the film addressed that it is okay for teens to come out and be themselves, especially if they're gay, given the fact that the suicide rate for teens, especially gay teens, is really high. So I really think the film did a great job at kind of addressing that and making it a little more comfortable for teens to come out and be themselves. So I think it was awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
We probably got about 2 more, and then we're gonna wrap it up. Michelle?
Sounds wonderful.
Okay.
Going along with that, I think, not to detract from the film, but one of the biggest
about acceptance, but the parents, the friends, the entire school was okay with everything. And so for everyone to be so accepting, I think kind of detracted from the film. If we saw someone who said, I mean, there was a whole protest, but for the entire school to kind of end up coming to the dance kind of, not ruined the movie, but didn't make it as impactful. And going with what she was saying about, like, it's okay to come out, but I think if we saw a little more resilience, it would have been more of an impact, I think.
Yeah, that's definitely an optimistic outlook on a teenager's experience coming out of high school, right? Yeah. No, it definitely ties, I mean, watching this, it reminds me of, I felt like Brent and Tanner were like Pretty in Pink. I was, the Molly Ringwald character and Ducky. It was like, oh my gosh, this is so similar. Do we want to have one more comment before we tie up? Oh.
I just want to say one thing that had kind of upset me was how when Tanner had come out, they were trying to teach him how to be a proper gay instead of just allowing him to be himself. And that just kind of gave me kind of a mixed output on the movie.
Oh yeah, they were trying to do like a socialization process with him and what they wanted him to be. Well, thank you all for all your great comments.